episode 54 of the Employer Content Marketing Pod. We're unboxing Web3 and what it means for creators, marketers, and the future of work. And it's HAM the Illustrator who joins me on the pod and gets his explainer boots on. He talks about his experience with big brands such as Nike, and the awesome opportunities available with Web3. We cover a range of things in this episode, such as creativity through collaboration, community-backed content, storytelling, and the future of learning, employability, and work. Let's get on with the chat.
Hi everybody, really happy to have Ham join me today. I was at the Youth Marketing Summit in East London, Brick Lane, a couple of weeks ago, and saw Ham present on stage talking about Web3 amongst other things. So as soon as he's finished, I jumped over to the green room area and said, "Look, Ham, I want to have a chat and let's get you on the podcast." So thank you, Ham, for joining. Really appreciate it. And let's start off by just a bit of an introduction about yourself, Ham.
Thanks, man. Firstly, I just want to say thanks, Chris, for having me. And thanks for coming and being in the audience. You came over, we spoke afterwards. It was really cool. And fun fact, I actually used to live across the street from Truman's Brewery. Like when we were standing, you look and you could see my window, which is really trippy now, giving a speech there. So quick intro on me. I go by the name Ham. I'm commonly known as Ham the Illustrator. Give it away in the name, but for years I've been a creative director and an illustrator, working on lots of kind of commercial campaigns, a lot of album art for like Warner and large commercial artists. But right now I'm really focused on kind of future tech and immersive storytelling and how we can use stories to try and drive social impact, but also drive innovation. Cool.
Nice. Well, one big part of what your presentation was like, your talk was about Web3, and look, Web3, it has been around for a number of years, that's for sure. Seeds of it have been around for a number of years, but I certainly feel like in the last 12 to 18 months, there's been a lot more kind of mainstream discussion, and that spills over into the marketing world. And I think there will be a number of people listening who will go, okay, so Web3, metaverse, blockchain, all this Web3 stuff. What is it all about? They may have some sort of understanding it, but I thought let's have a chat let's unpack what it actually means, and then we can kind of go into kind of what it means for the way that we are kind of marketing careers at people and the world of work. So Web3. Let's start off with that.
Sweet, let's get into it. Let me get my explainer boots on. So I guess we have to, to really, for a lot of things, as a lot of things nowadays, Web3, in all intents and purposes, is just a marketing term. It's a marketing phrase. It's on trend. Some people speculate whether this is the new transition of the internet. There's not an understanding of whether this is the new internet and it's going to replace the old internet, which is actually a misnomer, because even Web 1 still exists. Like the original internet still exists, just Web 2 superimposed it. So Web 3 will just be an extra layer on top of that. So it's not to say that Instagram and all of these things will disappear. It just means new levels will come in. So let's go back to Web 1. Web 1 started in, early 1989, 1990s, around there. Started with the first internet. Started with, the old school internet many of us will be familiar with, the dial tone, all of that kind of good stuff. But that time of internet was super decentralized. And not one person owned it, not one person could harbor it. It was free for all. But the problem was you needed to be kind of a developer or programmer to know how to engage with it. So for the rest of us that were just normal people, our experience of the internet was just to go on, get information and take it offline, right? So we'd consume it, we'd read it off the internet. Then come in, the mid 2000s, 2004, 2005, you have the advent of HTML and JavaScript. These programming languages allowed for more interactivity between the people that couldn't do stuff and the people that could. So now it gave advent to social media and apps like smartphones and all of this new technology. So I guess we put Web 1.0 as read, Now Web 2.0, which is in the 2000s, we put that as read and write, because now you could, not only could you consume information, you could upload information as well. You could put stuff. Not only could the data, not only were we downloading data of the internet, but also algorithms were born and they could start watching us. Now, with the advent of all of that, you've now introduced Web 3. Now, Web 3 is basically the idea of a blockchain, and the blockchain is trying to move the internet more to a decentralized state, if you will. And I guess why everyone's in such a fuss about this, why I personally care about this, is with the advent of WikiLeaks and Snowden and all the information we learned on how data was being used to weaponize us. Most of us didn't even know about data, let alone big data. We're still talking about big pharma. We're still talking about fossil fuels. You know, we don't understand these huge. And then we saw what happened in China with the surveillance systems that were monitoring people. So we're moving to this almost big brother state. And I guess Web3 in ideology is meant to be the solution to that, right? It's meant to be this idea that we no longer have a gigantic company, that Facebook, that harbors all of this data on us and then sells it off to marketing companies or ad companies, or, you know, who knows where, or being given over to government systems that use it against us. It's about, like, us as users should own our own data, and we should be able to encrypt and protect our data on a blockchain autonomously, free from any government body or any you know, sovereign party, I guess, or foreign party rather. So I hope that explains it.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's really interesting. I remember in the mid 2000s, you know, jumping online and publishing something, and all of a sudden it was there online, you know, doing a tweet, and all of a sudden, boom, it's like, wow, it's literally, I posted that a few seconds ago and now it's there on the internet, you know. So God, that's becoming a long time ago. But yeah, it's and even now, I was thinking about what you say about data, big data. So there's still a lot of talk about big pharma and oil, etc. It takes something like Cambridge Analytica and what, you know, the issues of that, to even just scratch the surface of the issues, because it feels like that's kind of fallen by the wayside, and it's not as big as it should be, as you're right, as big pharma is talked about. So that thing about how data is being used, especially politically, you know, is a massive issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I just got excited because you were right. Like, Cambridge Analytica was, I think, another big wake up moment, especially for the public, especially in the United Kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were manipulated in, like we are now living, you know, whether you voted for it or not is not my problem. Brexit was a very, like, contentious time here in the UK, and it divided our country, and it led to a lot of really big problems that we currently face in our economy. You know, there's shortages, healthcare system, everyone's understaffed. There were all of these promises. None of us will forget the £300 million bus, right? Like, and all of these, like, nonsense that just went around. And, like, big data was able to not only control us or make or put us in these microcosm, micro bubbles, and manipulate us, but they could also learn about us and know exactly what would be the trigger points that would change our behavior, using kind of put in human study and psychology into algorithm and pattern recognition and AI. And, you know, so, like, we almost are defenseless against this. Like, you know, the social dilemma, I guess, is another good one, right? That just kind of was like, what is going on, man?
Yeah, Social Dilemma. Anyone who's listened and watched that, Social Dilemma is definitely worth watching. I think, as you know, when we watch it, it's not so much of a surprise. I know the thing about, you know, well, if you're, you know, Facebook sells your data to companies so they can advertise at you, and, you know, we're thinking, okay, well, I'm thinking, you know, as long as the content is right and you're not manipulating people as much as you try and avoid manipulating people through marketing, it's a good thing, because you got relevance there, you know. But yeah, Social Dilemma is definitely worth watching to kind of get a hold on that, I think. So the whole thing around decentralization, you know, it feels like that's a long-term thing. And, you know, I can't remember whether we talked about it. Probably had talked about this in our green room chat just a bit before we recorded, but that feels like quite a long-term thing, where everyone owns their own data. You know, it's not that all of a sudden a switch is going to be flipped and everyone owns their data. There's going to be like a two-speed approach, isn't there? Where, as you say, it's like layers upon layers. So, how do you see, kind of mainly, and I suppose in the mainstream, Web3 starting to be layered on top of Web2?
It's interesting that you asked that. So I think I want to start with an analogy. I'd use a real world example or activations in which I've had, marketing companies or large brands come to me for a campaign, and in the Web2 world. And then I'll show you another one similarly, but how another client that came to me in the Web3 world, right? So you'd have one of my most fond jobs I ever did was Nike. And Nike came and said they were about to launch the MX 270 Reacts, right? Their new sneaker line. They wanted to commission, I think this is a roundabout-ish, the time of BLM-ish vibes. So they wanted to find 5 Black artists and basically commission us to create artwork inspired by a certain era of time. So I got the 60s, right? So I chose psychedelic art, and I could make an artwork, and they gave me a certain color pathway, and I could just make whatever artwork. And then it was paired with the launch of that colorway of sneaker. Great activation. You tell the stories on all of us as artists. It was the most I'd seen brand. It was featured on Heist and Brighty, and It's Nice That, and it was like a big kind of cross promotion for everybody. And I think it was a really, really well done campaign. Again, it's very tertiary. It's very kind of what everyone knows is the model. Now, fast forward to post-lockdown, I then get approached by Strawberries and Cream and Sony and Soga World. And so Soga World have the partnership deals with Strawberries and Cream and Sony. So essentially, Strawberries and Cream are a music festival out in Cambridge. They host large acts. And they were recently acquired by Sony, and basically they were going through, this new evolution. So they'd gotten some big acts involved, such as Burna Boy, Parsaloo, like a lot of really big names. But they wanted now to create NFTs, right? And what I really liked about them, or the idea of this, was that these wouldn't just be, we aren't just gonna make cards of Burna Boy and then people will own JPEGs of you're not just basically the idea was, how we want you to recreate these people, these headline acts, as superhero characters. And when we want to have a whole activation about their heritage, about their their big song. Not only that, but each person that buys into that will get festival perks. So they will get discounted future tickets. They'll get special VIP areas at the events. They thought about it completely from the utility standpoint. Now, this was early days, and it was so hard getting this idea to integrate with the formal rollout of an actual living, breathing festival. Like, how do you, when people understand how to buy a ticket and a VIP ticket on Ticketmaster or Eventbrite, right? It's so much harder to say, hey, guys, get a wallet, go and get this thing and get that thing. So at the time of launch, it wasn't as accessible as it is now. And so I think there's been so much more. There's so much more tools that are there in order for you to activate new people into campaigns that kind of streamline the funnel, right? So instead of having to faff around, people can just have a kind of almost PayPal checkout experience where you see something, you want to get involved in the project, you want to own stake in it, whether through a really well-structured marketing campaign, but you immediately can buy in. So I guess if I were to reimagine that Nike campaign and how it could have been done for nowadays, it would be that each of those artworks, there'll be a limited amount that would be released, and each person could buy into each artist, and then buying into each artist, they build that relationship with both the artists, become an official collector, but they will also own Nike IP. What you can do with those shoes, and maybe those come with a free pair or a pair of actual sneakers in that colorway. Do you understand? Now there's so many more points of engagement, so many more points of contact, so many points to make actually engaged content, because we're in a world, I guess, where we're struggling so much to retain attention, to really retain participation from our viewers. So I guess this is that transitional time.
Well, that's because there's that exclusivity side of things. So it's not just about, JPEG is not an NFT. A JPEG is not a community. A JPEG is not that feeling of exclusivity and also kind of cooperative about something. Where actually you're feeling part of something that means something to you. So that's I think that's really interesting. Is that, I mean, NFT space itself, I mean, I'm not sure if we should go into like massive amounts of detail there, but let's have a quick thing around NFTs. For anyone who doesn't know what NFTs are, how would you kind of, we've touched on some of it already, but how would you describe NFTs?
So I put NFTs. So firstly, I think let's just start with NFT stand for non-fungible tokens, right? And I guess without getting into the specifications of it, you can look it up on YouTube. There are many great explainer videos. I much more try and create visuals or pictures because that's how my brain works. But essentially, I'd like to think of an NFT as a digital receipt, right? So it's like, and you can put that digital receipt to anything you want. Just in most recently, people have kind of put it towards art and digital art. And that was great for me. So putting NFTs into a story now, I'm a digital artist, which means traditionally I create loads of amazing pieces, but it's on an iPad or a tablet, etc. Now, when you compare me to a traditional fine artist, right? A fine artist can make an oil painting, and that painting is one of one, and that fine artist can go and sell it at a gallery, an exhibition, and it's got immense value for being one of one, tens of thousands, right? Now, me as a digital artist, it's very hard for me to go and say, well, I've made this artwork and there's only one of them, because they're like, yeah, mate, you can just go to the printer and make 2 million of them if you wanted to. So like, there was never, and like, it was hard for me to create value behind my work and prove that this is of value. It's scarce, it's real. Now the advent of NFTs, that no longer was the case, because now as an artist, I can mint the artwork onto the blockchain, and the blockchain is transparent. It's basically, the idea of the blockchain is that, again, it's this decentralized network where everything is visible to everyone and you can see where things are happening. Of course, they're hidden behind security keys and wallets, but essentially that between transactions and people transacting in any exchange, it's what they call a trustless network. So I don't have to you can't say I sent you the money and then it's like 48 hours. Like, I'm not gonna, it won't go through until the transaction's gone through. It's just how how the blockchain works. So essentially, I guess with NFTs and selling digital art, and why it's blowing up, is it's introduced digital scarcity, right? So for the first time ever, like, suddenly you can put scarcity on digital goods, which means that now everyone's like, it's crazy, people are buying kittens or like monkeys online, pictures of monkeys, and I'm like, it's not that crazy. And we've been doing it since the beginning of time. We did it with little toy soldiers and with vintage coins. We did it with baseball cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon. We've been doing this. We like to value rare items, and we've just taken this. Many developers in the Web3 and NFT space took these ideologies and just gamified it and created it into cool and exciting projects. At first, they were just exciting projects, sometimes it was just exciting art, but that's not the age of NFTs we're in anymore. And that's why it's really important to give this, because I think there's the huge stigma behind NFTs being this pump and dump, making people just buy JPEGs. Whereas I think that's a very narrow way to look at this. It's a very small sector of what it can be. NFTs can be medical records. NFTs can be vote, like digital, like electronic votes. It can be any form of wanting to track wanting to make things, wanting to show transactions that can't be faked. And I think, and that can't be duplicated or manipulated. So I think
proof of behavior, isn't it? Basically, actual solid proof of behavior.
Facts. And I mean, it's funny because each blockchain is built on different kind of algorithms or different verification tools. Some are proof of stake, some are proof of history, some are proof of work, such as Bitcoin. So each one creates a different trust system or a trustless system within their network. And that's kind of where this whole race to what will be the next, because when we talk about metaverse, which I'm not going to get into, but we always speak about a unified technology. And I guess each of these cryptos, each NFT and NFT projects basically have to choose a network in which they want to build on. And in a way, by saying I want to run my project on Ethereum, there's a part of me that wants to believe Ethereum will be the future, and more people will adopt that. So there's many different communities that are all entwined in this space.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I love it. I think let's bring it back to, okay, so you're talking about what you did with Nike, and how that if you did it now, what it would look like. So I suppose if we're thinking about if we've got like, you know, marketing teams or, you know, agency people going, all right, so Web3, we really need to be doing something in this space. What kind of things should they be considering? I suppose for me, that starting thing is that actually, isn't it, is about having that feeling of collaboration and cooperation and community based on an idea or a thing where everyone can feel that they are partly owner to. I don't know, that's my guessing on a bit as a starting point, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tagging on to that, I guess the opening statement I'll say is don't appropriate Web3 just because you're a marketer, right? Whatever space you move into, whether that's, you know, an ethnic space, a neurodivergent space, gender non-conforming space, whatever space you or whatever horse you'd like to back, like make sure you actually care about it and it's something you actually are interested in. So I'd say start with interest, start with curiosity, learn, and then choose your champions, right? And then collaborate with your champions on your marketing campaigns. I think that, you know, and many of the projects I've been approached to, you know, it was Soga World. So Soga World were like there are many different parties. I think when you're a marketer, you will work with your client, you understand what your clients are trying to push or where they're trying to move. Your understanding of the Web3 world and the Web3 space will inform your ability to then create campaigns. And then in creating that campaign is choosing who you'd like, who gives the most value for that specific campaign. If Nike want to drop a sneaker, you want to do the sneaker in as an NFT, but you want it as a 3D NFT, then maybe look for a 3D NFT artist, right? Like, and someone that's really prevalent in that space, message them, get them involved and learn with them, right? And maybe there are devs. So I think it's always about collaboration. It's about getting those bookmarks, getting those private folders of people who you really like in this space. So when you're starting to get thoughts in, you're bringing in these people into the ideation and campaign kind of generation stage.
Yeah, it's good. It's just the same as when, you know, you look at proper relationships between brands and content creators or influencers. You know, it's don't shoulder barge your way over the way they do things. You know, is actually have a true partnership with them and let them use their expertise and knowledge of the space to get the best out of it, but also for you to learn as well as a brand. When we met at Youth Marketing Summit in London, so you were talking about Hundo and CareerCon. So let's just spend a bit of time talking about that, because I think that's another nice way of showing the listeners, or telling listeners how they could exist in a Web3 world as the years go on.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you're right. So when we met, I was working with a company called Hundo, who I've got a lot of love and respect for. They are the world's first on-chain learn and earn campus for Gen Z. Now that's a big, long, wordy title, but essentially what it means is that they use Web3 to create a more immersive like learning tool for Gen Z. Or which is really like it's really for anyone. It's targeted, it's free for under 25s because that's within their mission statement, but they're really trying to figure out how to solve youth unemployment, and they're in that journey as a startup as it goes on. So CareerCon is the world's first Web3 careers convention that they're organizing on the 8th and 9th, which I played a large part in programming and bringing in partners. So we hope that will be kind of a place for people to come in and learn more about how it all works.
I'm looking forward to that. I was figuring out what to spend my first lot of Ethereum on, and when you talked about CareerCon, I was like, right, I'll buy some. So so I'm looking forward to that for sure. So so this idea of Hundo's idea of this campus. So this is where I suppose then we're using, going back to things like blockchain. Does then that mean we're talking about blockchain in the sense of building up your own professional profile and your learning by having a ledger of learning. Is that
Yeah, I think that's really well put. I think it's essentially the idea of building your profile, creating an avatar, even a digital identity that's brought on behalf of Ready Player Me. That's a fantastic company.
Yeah.
Which is again another example, like one of the fastest growing companies are the companies that are creating, allowing people to create their own avatars and create the way they want them to look, and then trying to make that as cross usable onto different platforms as possible. Right.
Okay.
So Ready Player Me are trying to figure out how to get on all the blockchains and and work with the most exciting projects and get their avatars used. And I remember I went to the Meta Festival, and at the Meta Festival, to register to go and enter into the festival, you had to use their register to make a character on Ready Player Me. Then you could take that instant character and then walk around with them in this kind of virtual world. So so I'll go back to Hando, but it's just to say that lots of these companies are cross collaborating and are building with each other's tools to try and make it. So, Hando, you'd create a profile, you'd use this Ready Player Me, you'd have a profile, then you'd basically you come onto the platform. There are intro courses which are unlocked. The rest of the platform's locked. You come onto the platform, and most of the courses are locked, but once you've done the intro courses, you basically earn tokens, and with those tokens, you can then unlock more advanced courses. It's more like a reward system. For every course you complete, it mints or creates an NFT badge, like a skills badge. I like to liken it to like a Pokemon badge. When you get one of them.
It's gamifying it, isn't it? Properly gamifying it.
Yeah, properly gamifying it, and yeah. So then the hope is that as people go through this, they're incentivized to learn, and that the courses and the course creators that they hope to get onto the platform will be really high value. There are challenges and there's things that there are many things in the space, but I think right now we're at that really early builder stage. So it's a lot about the ideas of what could be, and it's evident that there's like a massive gap in the market. There's a massive skills deficit between skills that are needed by future employers and what currently universities and higher education spaces are pushing out. There's a big disconnect there. So we need more players jumping in, trying to solve that. And at a time in my life, like I met Hando, I really, in my personal career, do everything I can to address youth unemployment and youth empowerment. And I spend a lot of time in mentorship and working with Link Up TV and different people, basically trying to elevate in Princess Trust, trying to elevate young people and get them new skills. And it's super hard. I can talk all day about how I came up on YouTube and how I've rinsed every, tutorial, and I can do everything, but not everyone learns in that way. So I'm really, when I came across Hando and came across their mission and what they were hoping to do, I was like, listen, I'll back you guys and try and see what we can do. And it's a really, really exciting project.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna drop in some links to CreateCon and Hando as well, so listeners can take a look and see what it's about. But I think that's really, really interesting, because it's splicing technology with an actual real world, an actual need, a very sincere and important need, which is to help connect people with the right opportunities, give rise to more equal opportunities amongst everybody, so that actually, when they are entering the world of work, especially world of work that's going to be faced with new technologies that Web3 creates, they're going to have a better chance of succeeding, aren't they? Whereas it's a bit down to pot luck at the moment, isn't it? Really, about who is successful or not in their career, and that's why I loved your talk at the Youth Marketing Summit, because for me, a big thing of why I do what I do in the employer marketing spaces is to make sure it's not too much to ask that more people do a job that they love, or at least like, more than if they were just picking any old job. So trying to connect people with something that is a big part of their life and a big part of their feeling of mastery and autonomy and success is, I think a good thing. So I like how the technology is being applied to a really important issue, basically.
Absolutely. And I feel like one thing I want to add to that is that, look, I'm an immigrant to this country, and I came here, although my dad is English, and I came here, every year since I was a little kid. I never really grew up here or lived here. I didn't really understand it. I kind of flew in from Namibia and South Africa, got at Heathrow, then got on a train straight up to Durham. So all I knew was like the countryside outside Durham. Like that's all of England and kind of what I saw on Skins, like, and Mighty Boosh maybe. But like I think in my time having moved here at 18 years old, I was really faced in a dilemma. So like everything I've ever dreamt of doing, I was able to do. And my ethos in life is outside of this kind of artisan. My dad was an X. My dad's dad was an X. Therefore, I will be an X. Like fill in the blank. I feel like we are moving into this gig economy. We're moving into a freelance economy where more and more businesses are looking for people that can do numerous things very well. And more importantly, have really good connections and networks that we can all work and cross collaborate on. So when we are talking about young people, we've got to move them out of this archaic system of employment. It's not saying that that's not for everyone, but like, for instance, I've got a sister that works in the NHS. She's an incredible physiotherapist in the NHS, but she's not getting paid enough. She sleeps in the hospital overtime. She wants to supplement her income. She also wants to be, also she's young. She wants to go and do things. So she wants to like learn new skills. Like she comes to me like, Ham, like, yo, like, what can I do? Like, can I be a voiceover actress? Can I like figure, what can I do online? And I think I want to move into a world where we're educating people on how to, because people, we're not, binary. We can't only do one thing. Many of us have so many interests, but we don't ever figure out how can we monetize it, if ever. So I'm interested to see where that conversation can go. And I guess this is why I'm just generally interested in the space. This is why I was super interested in Hundo and anyone involved in trying to like get young people more opportunities.
Well, it is really important. We're in a situation now where actually, content has been kind of democratized because of the internet and the advances in the internet. But I think that actually probably makes it more challenging than it was when that information wasn't so accessible, is that there's so much choice, but one doesn't even know about that choice out there. And I think parents are in a challenging situation where they will go on their knowledge, which may be hardly anything at all, or I'll just do this because, I was an accountant, or because I was a doctor. And you could even argue those people who are, feel that they're in the right position to advise their kids might make their kids do something that inadvertently make their kids do something that they don't enjoy doing, which means they then don't have as fulfilling life as they can. But the access to learning that is now available is fantastic. So I think the more that Web3 can make that easier, the better. But I think, Ham, definitely it'd be great to get you back on the podcast for another discussion. I know there's stuff around your illustration work. You're Ham the Illustrator after all. So I think definitely that's a little bit of a plug for hopefully another episode we'll do, and maybe in a few weeks or months time, maybe some point this year. But it's been great to chat. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's the pleasure and honor has truly been mine. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm glad that I hope we didn't like scare everyone away with all the Web3 like deep dive. But I'm always happy to like share knowledge and share any insights I found on this. And I'm really glad that you got me on. And of course, like I think as much as I speak about these tools and these technologies and why I'm interested in them, my biggest concern is social impact. As I said at the beginning of this, I'm really interested into cool. Here's Web3, here's NFT projects, here's all of these cool companies, but like the White Walkers of the situation, Game of Thrones reference there is, but it's climate change, and like at the end of the day, and I think I really want to echo this, that should be most of our concerns, and bringing that into kind of our campaigns, into our strategies, into our storytelling, into our narratives, into and so I'm really interested in where Web3 and these tools move into in that space, and I hope that in the next episode you can also deep dive into where tech and social impact kind of intersect.
100%. No, definitely. In fact, I'm close to even just sending you an invite now for the next one.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Thanks very much, Ham, and yeah, have a good one,
Great.
mate. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the chat. If you did, feel free to subscribe to get future episodes, and please do share the podcast with others. It really does make a difference.